You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Well, good morning, everyone. Or at least it's Monday morning where we are.
Yes, it is.
I'm not sure what time it might be in the world where you are, but it's Monday morning here. Although the sun's shining and the birds are singing and all the good stuff's going on, so it's a pretty good day. Is there anything going on? I don't think there's anything going on that, no. As a writer put in a movie one time, no new countries have been invaded, so it's a pretty good day today. We're still dealing with the same old, but we have to deal with that anyway, right? Oh my! As folks are tuning in, if you like what you hear, don't be afraid of the share buttons. It helps people, get to us and all that good stuff. But we're here, and it is what it is. Don't be afraid of the like buttons either. That helps in the analytics. You know how all the algorithms and everything work on the computers these days. If you want folks to be able to get to us easier, those like buttons work really well. Notifications help as well. All of those good things that keep us, just makes it easier for people to find us. One of the reasons that I don't do the Facebook Lives anymore, other than Facebook was giving us a hard time, is, certain social media sites, well, I know of one in particular, they're actually trying to unsubscribe people, and it's kind of an aggravation because a lot of people actually, once they acquire a certain number of followers on a social media site, they get paid for that, and it's how they supplement their income. So, we just don't do that anymore. Isn't it amazing that the world we live in has come down to, we don't want anybody else to hear what you're saying, so we're going to make it hard for people to listen to you. Which is the big reason I like the podcast. If you subscribe to the podcast, you get notified, and it doesn't matter. So far, the platforms we use, they don't interfere. So it makes life a little easier. If you grew up before probably the 1980s, you may have heard a parent or an adult use the phrase, "Do as I say, not as I do." I heard that often. My mother would use this phrase if I attempted to do something either I wasn't old enough to do or I wasn't big enough to do. And it's a little hypocritical, right? And that's what we're going to look at today. Now, if you were confused about that phrase, you're not alone. Do as I say, not as I do. Do what I tell you to do. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It is a little confusing. And sometimes when we see people do this, it's, wow, really? You did that? You just told me not to. Now, I don't know. We really don't know when that phrase came into being. But quite honestly, I don't think anybody later than about the 18th century understood what it meant. Not really. When we think about being hypocritical, do we really stop and think about what it means? Probably not. In 1828, Noah Webster writes this definition: simulation, a feigning or a pretending to be what one is not, or dissimulation, a concealment of one's real character or motives. Now that was in 1828 when Noah Webster was writing his dictionary, American Dictionary of the English Language. Now the first time we see the word hypocrite in the Bible, it is in Job. And I really like the way the International Children's Bible puts this.
That is what will happen to everyone who forgets God. The hope of the person without God will be gone. What he trusts in is easily broken. It is as easily broken as a spider web. Job 18:13 and 14.
The person without God, the godless, the hypocrite, the person who pretends to be something they are not. And by the way, if you're keeping score, the Strong's number for that is Hebrew 26:11. Now, I need to stop for a second right here and say this. Everyone, and I mean everyone, at times means to do something that we fail to do, or, we do things that, maybe we make a promise and something comes up and we're unable to keep that promise. Something might happen and just makes it impossible. That's not what we're talking about in this podcast. What I want to look at, what I want to address, are the people who claim that they love the Creator, but their actions prove they love something else even more. Now, Jesus calls out the Pharisees for being hypocrites on more than one occasion. The last time was during his tirade in Matthew 23, and yes, that was a tirade. And again, Myra's going to read from the International Children's Bible a part of that.
How terrible for you, teachers of the law and Pharisees! You are hypocrites. You give to God 1/10 of everything you earn, even your mint, dill, and cumin. But you don't obey the really important teachings of the law, being fair, showing mercy, being loyal. These are the things that you do, as well as those other things. You guide the people, but you are blind. You are like a person who picks a fly out of his drink and then swallows a camel. Matthew 23:23 and 24.
Don't you just love it? You're like the person who picks the fly out of his drink and then swallows the camel. Now, we've been involved with several churches over the years. We know a lot of well-meaning people, and I've heard some rather bizarre things come out of the mouths of both Christians and Jews, even some rabbis. For Christians, you might hear the words that Yeshua spoke and then argue, but Paul said. I've heard that numerous times. And from the rabbis, it's no different. We hear, well, yeah, that's what Moses wrote, but the Talmud tells us. See, there's no difference there. Now, if you've been fortunate enough to read Inheriting Lies, my third book, you would know that the New Testament we have today is in the wrong order. It's not written, or what we have today is not given to us in the order in which it was written. Let's put it that way. The four Gospels were written after Paul's letters. And some argue that they are written in response to Paul's letters, and others think that they're written in response to the people who wanted to know more about the life of Yeshua. Either way, the consensus is that the Gospels were written after Paul had spent some time writing to the people that he'd been visiting. That means, and I'm going to upset some Christians out there right now. I know it, and I'm going to get messages. I'm going to get emails. I know what's coming, okay? Because what this means is that the New Testament is much like the Talmud or the Mishnah. Now, the Mishnah being the written down oral laws, while the Talmud is more of a commentary on the moral laws. And there's no difference. You either believe what's written or you don't. It's that simple. And since I've gone down this rabbit trail this far, I'm going to keep on going. What's a Pharisee? Do you know what a Pharisee really is? You have no idea, do you? Nobody ever told you what a Pharisee really was. You can't remember. Okay. Now, some people, mostly Christians, they think that a Pharisee is a priest, but it's not. A Pharisee is actually someone who is supposed to be separated from sin. Although the Hebrew word Pharisee is very closely associated with the word for oxen. That's kind of a strange way to derive words from, but there it is. The Levitical priesthood was actually left in disarray after the Babylonian exile. And when the people returned to the land, not everyone came back, and of course the priesthood became corrupted. The Pharisees are nothing more than another sect of teachers. They became known as Pharisees. Another group was the Sadducees. There was another group which became popular during that time known as the Essenes. The Essenes were the ones that we give credit to for writing the Black Sea Scrolls. They were more of the outcasts, okay? They wanted to live the way that they believed they were designed to live. And although some of them went way overboard, I mean, they just went way too far. They even considered work. I need to find a way to say this so it's not as offensive. The Essenes, some of them, would consider it work to have to relieve yourself on the Sabbath. So they would stop eating and begin fasting on like a Wednesday or Thursday. They would stop drinking on Friday. And I'm not talking about alcohol either. I'm talking about water or anything, so that they wouldn't have to relieve themselves on the Sabbath. That's carrying it a little far, just saying. You could almost consider them religious hippies in a kind of a strange sort of a way. What wound up happening is a lot of the general population, a lot of the people, simply began to follow the Pharisees because it was easier. But the Pharisees taught many of their own regulations as if they were equal or more important than what Moses had written. And then they absolved themselves from needing to follow their own rules. If you live in the United States, it sounds a little bit like Congress. In other words, what they were telling the people is, do as I say, not as I do. And what Jesus was teaching the people was, don't worry about what the Pharisees told them to do. Do what Moses had written. At least 8 times, Jesus is recorded as saying, it is written. Well, who wrote it? Moses wrote it. Now, there is contained in Isaiah a promise for the punishment of the hypocrite. If you want to read that passage out of Isaiah.
So the Lord will cut off Israel's head and tail. He will take away both the branch and the stalk in one day. The elders and important men are the head. The prophets who speak lies are the tail. Those who lead the people lead them in the wrong direction, and those who follow them will be destroyed. So the Lord is not happy with the young men. He will not show mercy to the widows and the orphans. All the people are separated from God and are very evil. They all speak lies. Isaiah 9, verse 14 through 17.
All of the people who are separated from God, the godless, the hypocrite, they are, according to Isaiah, evil. Now, does this mean that all of the people I know who say things like, but Paul said, or the Talmud tells us, are they all evil? Of course not. Some of them may simply be ignorant of what they're saying, or they believe the lies they have inherited from their fathers. Jeremiah 16:19. That's where I get the title of the book, Inheriting Lies. Lately, when I hear things like this, I need to stop them and ask them a couple of questions. For the Christian, I want to know if they believe Paul's words more than the words of Yeshua, Jesus. Who are you going to follow, right? For the Jew, I ask them if they believe, the sages who wrote the Talmud more than the words of Moses. Now, what I'm really asking is, who do you believe? The person that they claim to follow? Or do they put more trust in someone else because it's easier? Think about what you do. What do you do? You claim one thing and then do something else, right? Who do you believe? When the world sees believers, do they see you doing what's written, or do they see you wanting to look that way but doing something else? There's a reason the world looks at believers today as hypocrites. You see, a lot of times believers a lot of times the world may have started out as going to church, going to synagogue, doing, the things. And then they look around and they say, but, the older people that we're supposed to be following the footsteps of, they're not doing this. So they don't think it's important. They don't understand, it means nothing to them. So why should it mean anything to me? That's the example you're setting. And that's the wrong example to be setting. And I don't care, I shouldn't say it that way. It doesn't matter to me if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, if you're, pick a religion. It doesn't matter. Are you doing the things that the book you claim to follow tells you to do? Or are you making excuses? So now, doesn't matter if you're Jewish, doesn't matter if you're Christian. Are you willing to stop being hypocritical and live the way your Creator designed you to live? Are you going to follow His instructions? Not my instructions, not your pastor's instructions, not your rabbi's instructions, the Creator's instructions. Not a church doctrine, not a rabbinic ruling. Are you right now willing to change your lifestyle and do the things you are able to do to make your lifestyle match what is written in the Bible? That's a question you have to answer. I can't answer it for you. You have to answer that question for yourself. Now, if you need some help getting started, GiveGod90.com is a place to go, because it takes you through small step-by-step changes that are really simple and easy to do, one step at a time, so that you can turn your life around. I think we were in, I don't remember where it was now. It might have been at the farm market the other day, the Amish market we were at. Lady had a T-shirt on that says, "When I pray, things happen." I wanted to ask this person if, do you really want to make things happen? Because a lot of times people will wear this kind of stuff, but nothing happens. And the reason it doesn't happen is because they're not living what they claim to believe. Do you realize once you understand and you start living the way that you're designed to live, you have the opportunity to hold the hand of your Creator. When you do that, you have power. Being godless has no power. Some people might think it does. We look at a lot of people around the world today and we say, oh, that person does this and does that, and they're rich and famous. How long is that going to last? There's a verse in Genesis chapter 6, and it talks about how bad people were. And a lot of times people will say, oh, these are the children of the fallen angels and mankind. And that's not what that verse means. It's actually talking about the people who were famous, but they were famously evil. Claiming to be something you are not is not powerful. It's powerless. Because once we are able to see through these people and understand their motivation, and usually their motivation is self-serving. They don't care about you. Not really. They want to entertain you because they get paid for it. They want to put on a good show because they get paid for it. Our actors, our actresses, our sports people, even though they're talented, actors and actresses, the people you see on television, your newscasters are paid professional liars. Do you think a newscaster actually writes the news they read? Of course not. They're reading a teleprompter and it's all edited for them. They look it over before they're even on the air. They don't write the news anymore. Now there's some really good news writers out there who actually do write real news, but they're hard to find. You've got to dig through a whole lot to find them. So we need to stop telling people to do something and then we do something different. We need to challenge them instead to live the way the Creator designed them to live. We could say to follow you as you follow the Creator. Now, you're going to trip, you're going to fall down, you're going to make mistakes. And we should remind those folks, when you do that, don't step there. That was, I'm going ahead of you. If I fall down, don't step there. If I trip, don't step there. That should be the example we set. If you're going to attempt to guide people into a relationship with the Creator, remember you're a guide. If you fall down, don't step there. If you trip, don't step there. Now, the good news is, on this particular journey, if you do that, well, you can repent and get back up and keep on going. The whole time reminding folks, don't step there. I tripped. Don't step there. You know, maybe we should try something new. Instead of do as I say, not as I do, maybe believers should adopt a new phrase and start saying, do as I try to do. And the world might just be a better place. Maybe. But it begins with you figuring out who you are going to follow. So, can you tell I don't like hypocrites? I rate them right up there with politicians and lawyers. So, until Thursday evening, everyone.
Everyone be blessed.
We wish you a blessed week.